Director Anderson?
Yes.
Director Buchanan?
Yes.
Director Colson?
Yes.
Director DeWitt?
Yes.
Director Durrani?
Yes.
Director Frega?
Yes.
Director Fuentes?
Yes.
Director Hobson?
Yes.
Director McGallis?
Yes.
Director Pang?
Yes.
Director Ross?
Yes.
Director Totten?
Yes.
Director Troiani?
Yes.
Chairman Dillard?
Yes.
14 ayes and 2 absent.
Thank you, and those minutes will be so approved. Item 4 is our public comment segment of the meeting, and we have no scheduled speaker for today. So let's go immediately to item 5, which is our, over there behind the Emmy Award, is our great executive director, Leanne Redden, who will introduce our very special guest today.
Yes, before I dive in and do my regular items that I usually update you on, I would like to take a couple of minutes to introduce you to President Dorval Carter, who is the couple of months now, returning back to CTA from the FTA, and I think we're very excited. I'm personally very excited that he is back in town. Already he has been a great help and a great ally in a lot of the discussions, and as we start to move into our budget discussions for next year, be a great asset and a great addition to the team. So with that, I would turn the mic over to him and let him share a few thoughts with you.
Great, and welcome.
Thank you very much, and I'm so honored to be here to meet with all of you and to sort of introduce myself as president of CTA. There are a few familiar faces on the board from my previous time here, and it's good to see all of you again. But there are also obviously a lot of new faces, and one of the things I've been telling my staff at CTA is that a lot can change in 6.5 years. So I am glad to be back, but also learning a lot about where we are. And I think for those of you who don't know me, I have a very lengthy career between CTA and the federal government that started back in 1984 when I started at CTA as a staff attorney right out of law school. And have served in probably a gazillion different positions at CTA over the course of my career. But also has spent a substantial amount of my time in Washington, D.C., both with the Federal Transit Administration, where I've held both career and political positions, and also in the Office of the Secretary, where I was most recently the Chief of Staff to the Secretary of Transportation before I was given a very warm invitation to come back to CTA by the mayor of the city of Chicago. It's really good to be back here. As I indicated, a lot has changed in the 6 years that I've been here. One of the things that I have noticed, and I say this not only from the perspective of CTA president, but also from my time in Washington, D.C., is how well the region has come together as a group and as one advocacy voice, particularly in Washington, D.C., for supporting transit and funding for transit. And I know that both Leanne and Kirk have been out to D.C. I've actually been in meetings with both of them on a number of occasions where they were in town to certainly make the case for more funding for Chicago and for the transit systems here. And for that, I certainly appreciated their efforts in Washington, D.C., and I will appreciate it even more here in Chicago with CTA. And so I want to first of all thank you both for your advocacy on behalf of transit and the support that you've given to the region along with the rest of the board in terms of trying to move this region forward and really to make it one of the premier places in the country for transit in the United States. I also have noticed the tremendous change in the relationship between RTA, CTA, Metro, and PACE since my last time here, and I can tell you, having been in a number of meetings over the past couple of months, how much of a pleasure it is to really work in a cooperative spirit with both the service boards, my sister agencies, and RTA as we deal with the many challenges that we're facing going forward, not the least of which is, of course, our situation down in Springfield. It is a refreshing and wonderful opportunity to work in a collaborative way, and I've truly enjoyed working with everyone in my new position here at CTA. I want to take a moment also to just introduce you to another new member of my team. She is the number 2 person at CTA. She is the Chief of Staff and Chief Operating Officer, and her name is Sylvia Garcia, and she's over here to my right. Sylvia also was at the Department of Transportation with me, where she was the CFO for the entire department, and I was very fortunate to be able to convince her to come join me at CTA, and her experience not only within DOT but in Washington, D.C., I think will provide us a lot of support as we continue to get the funding that we know is available for us at the federal level, and use that as leverage to get additional funding and support here at the state and local level. So I am excited to be back. I'm excited to be able to work with all of you. I look forward to working with all of you going forward, going into this new budget process, and obviously there and beyond. And thank you very much for having me here and allowing me the opportunity to introduce myself to all of you today.
Great, thank you. And you know, it's funny when you were appointed, and the mayor made obviously an incredibly wise choice as he has in the past with others. But there was an old saying that Mike Ditka on Walter Payton said, when God chiseled or created a halfback, he had Walter Payton in mind. If you could look for someone with a background, a perfect background to run the CTA, you couldn't have a better one than Dorval's. You know, the mix of positions you've had at the CTA, your experience with the federal government are just invaluable. And you also bring, you know, an understanding of the governmental and political dynamics that we operate under. And then Sylvia, you know, we are blessed to have you as well. You know, your experience is absolutely invaluable, and you and B. Hickey will become sisters in transit. But you know, you give all of us, including Mr. Carter, you know, an ability to sleep better at night by having somebody with your incredible knowledge of transportation and transportation funding, which is really just critical to all our missions. So it is. And I want to thank, you know, I've thanked your predecessor, Forrest Claypool, on many occasions, but we do enjoy working with the CTA. Your staff has been great, and as you've said, the level of dialogue is probably as good as it's ever been. And in these tough times, we're all in this together. With the one mission, and again, Mayor Emanuel, as Sarah Pang and the other mayoral appointees will say, you know, Mayor Emanuel gets it with respect to the importance to our economy and our way of life of mass transit. So I certainly, you know, thank him for his appointment of you, and vice versa with Sylvia. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Dorval before we send him back to go off and work on repairing the yellow line and all the other things, all the other miniature crises and major crises he deals with hourly? Well, if not, thank you so much. Don't be a stranger, and anytime you need me or Leanne or any of the RTA staff, anything we can do with respect to the CTA, I was a frequent visitor to your building when Forrest was there. So anytime you need me, just call and I will pop over and see you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I look forward to working with all of you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right, so B, can you slide something down there? So we'll start where we always begin, the great news of how much the state owes us. As of today, we are owed $283.9 million by the state of Illinois. Switching to Washington, well, just on the Springfield update, I mean, I think there's really no new news out of Springfield that isn't already being covered by the media. We sort of sit and watch. Jeremy's engaged on a regular basis, governor's office, House staff, Senate staff, as things progress or not. And we'll keep you posted as any news or any developments occur. Moving on to Washington, the House Republicans are looking to pass an extension to the Highway Trust Fund to the end of the year, which actually did pass. When did it pass? Yesterday? Yesterday. It was yesterday. The days are turning into a blur. Which included basically $8 billion of revenues to fund that through the end of this year. There's additional conversation as of this morning that they might even be looking on the Senate, I think it's the Senate side, might even be looking to move on a longer term up to a 6-year bill. I'll believe it when I see it. But it's sort of a, hour to hour, day to day kind of discussion going on as that develops. The Ways and Means Chairman Paul Ryan and House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee Chairman Bill Schuster said that the bill that the lawmakers are putting together would really, they're saying they want to look for long-term stability, and we would absolutely welcome that. That is sort of straight off our talking points too, but we'll wait to see how that plays out. On the broader government affairs side, transit parity, which we talk with you about often, which is a priority for us, has really been put on the back burner and sort of tied up more with more comprehensive tax reform discussions. Orrin Hatch, prior to the 4th of July recess, had alluded to that tax reform would not happen this year, but now they're starting to change the story a little bit and saying they're perhaps going to start looking at tax extender bills and other things. And we will look to capitalize or sort of jump onto any potential legislation that might be moving that we could attach the transit parity piece to. On the coalition front, Santa Cruz Metro in the San Francisco Bay Area has joined the Getting America to Work coalition. That helps to round out and solidify our base of coalition membership in the San Francisco area. And we, with the coalition, will be doing a big media blitz in that area with their media outlets to talk about sort of the long-term transportation needs and the agenda of the coalition. And with that, that is the essentially the end of my presentation. I said we'd be short and sweet. Last month, I did mention to the board members that hot off the presses, we had been nominated to receive an award for some of the marketing efforts and efforts that we are doing around transit. And I mentioned that we had been nominated to receive a Telly Award, and here is the 2015. Seriously, it's heavy. I'm not just acting when I try to pick it up. This is actually made by the same people that make the Academy Awards, so it is the same caliber of a statuette. So it's kind of cool. So I thought I'd just bring that and show the board members for the work that we're doing and keeping the word out there about the role and the benefits of the transit system in our region. Thank you.
It's great. That's a nice award. Those commercials were outstanding, and it's nice to have the professionals review what we do when we expend money for our ads. To have the industry say, hey, you chose the right people to produce, and your message is very good, and the way it's delivered in a professional fashion. Thank you. One other thing I want to add is Leanne and I had breakfast along with Jim Smith, who is retained by the RTA for federal affairs, with Congressman Peter DeFazio in Chicago just in the last couple of weeks. He's the ranking Democrat on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. He's from Oregon. It was good to get him into Chicago to let him see what it's like here. And then I know Congressman Schuster, Leanne, is scheduled to come back to Chicago. He's the Republican Transportation Committee chief, and he's coming back here, and we will see him as well. But it's nice to have members of Congress from other cities come to Chicago just to see and look at the iconic L and the sheer numbers of people and riders we move every day, and to understand the importance of transit to our region economically. Item 6 is BHICCI's report, and the first are our monthly financials.
Good morning. Here, let's get it up. There it is. Good morning. So we will now review the financial results for the year-to-date through May. At the regional level, favorable expense performance continues to be more than offset by unfavorable operating revenue, while public funding results have begun to strengthen, producing an improving net result for the system. So a little bit about unemployment. After 3 straight months of decline, the labor data indicates that the RTA region unemployment levels were unchanged in May. So the total labor force was unchanged as well. Local unemployment rate held steady at 6.4, but it is still about 1% higher than the national unemployment rate. System ridership in May was down 3.1% from prior year, and year-to-date system ridership is now 2.2% lower than budget. One of the things we were asked to do is to take a look at the cost of tolls and driving compared to some of our fares. So we took we took a couple of routes for comparison purposes. And for example, we looked at like the Wisconsin border to the loop via I-94. So it's approximately 60 miles. When you look at the cost of a Metro fare for that route, and we will share this with you, I just want to give you some examples. $5.34 would be the cost of the Metro fare. When you look at the total cost of the car, and what we're using is the AAA rate of 0.58 per mile, and that's the rate, and I should tell you what that includes. It includes fuel, maintenance, tires, insurance, license, registration fees, taxes, depreciation, finance charges. And of course, this does not include parking. So when you look at that, plus the tolls of $2.35, it's a total of about $40. So $40 on that example route between the Metro fare for $5.34 versus the $40. I think you had asked Director Dunn. So that's one example. Let me give you another example of Naperville to the Loop via I-88 290. So that's about 30 miles. Again, using the same factors, except obviously it's only 75 cents in tolls. So the Metro fare is $4.20. But when you take the cost of the car with those items that I told you, that would run about $20 to drive with all of those fees included. And then one last one, Elgin to the Loop via I-94-90. So that's about 40 miles. So the tolls on that are $1.30, but when you add the AAA costs and so forth as calculated for the cost of the vehicle and everything, that equates to about $25 compared to the Metro rate of $4.86. So it just confirms what we all know, that it's cheaper to ride public transit. But we will share this with you. We just started to do some of the calculations, but I wanted to share that with the group. Nevertheless, system ridership is still down. CTA bus and rail ridership were both lower than budget by about 2%, and both were also lower than prior year, with bus ridership down more than rail on a year-over-year basis. So, for example, CTA bus ridership was down 1.2%, while CTA rail ridership was down 0.5%. Metro ridership is also now slightly unfavorable to budget and is down about 1% from 2014. But remember that Metro had an increase in February, so some ridership loss was anticipated and budgeted for. As indicated by the red box, Pace Suburban Service ridership is 9.4% unfavorable to budget through May. Pace's budget anticipated 1.4 ridership growth. They had anticipated a 1.4 ridership growth in 2015, but actually they've experienced ridership loss in 4 of the first 5 months of the year. At the most recent board meeting, Pace reiterated that the discontinuation of the cash transfers with the Metro change has been a significant factor in the ridership decrease, along with the lower gas prices, and they indicated that they're continuing to monitor the situation. Let's talk about operating revenue now. So operating revenue was $7.1 million, or 1.6 unfavorable to budget, but again, that's primarily due to the service boards no longer projecting the reduced fare reimbursement coming in as a rate. So it's really not an apples-to-apples comparison. Pace Suburban Service had a highlighted unfavorable variance of 5.2%, driven by lower than anticipated advertising revenue and the reduced fare funding. Medicaid reimbursements have actually exceeded budget by 35% year to date, so that's resulting in a favorable operating revenue variance of 7.8% for the ADA paratransit, highlighted in blue. But again, that's a timing difference. Those Medicaid reimbursements are coming in for prior periods, prior years even. So it's just we receive them when we receive them. The public funding section of the dashboard now shows favorable results for each service board. We are now including the results as projected of an April sales tax, which is about 3% above budget. PTF in turn, which is also obviously the match, has also begun to trend above budget for this year. Let's look at operating expenses now. System-wide operating expenses through May were $21.6 million, or 2% favorable to budget, with each service board reporting favorable results for both the year-to-date and for the month of May. So keep in mind that even though we're projecting less public funding in some of the areas, they are very much watching their expenses so that they're staying in line, and especially because of some of the uncertainty that we're not yet clear what's going to happen. So, as we've reported previously, about 1/3 of the favorable variance is also attributable to lower fuel prices. Pace Suburban Service had a 7.9 favorable to budget performance, highlighted in blue primarily by fuel savings because they pay as you go, buy as you go for fuel. 88 Paratransit's 8.9% favorable expense is being driven by lower purchase transportation, fuel, administrative, and overhead expense. Some of the purchase transportation savings are due to ADA ridership being slightly unfavorable to budget, but also PACE has realized lower trip costs due to their improved terms on their negotiated contracts. Those most recently are negotiated in the last year, 9 months. At the regional level, favorable operating expenses and public funding more than offset the unfavorable operating revenue. So it's producing a net year result that is $18.1 million favorable to budget, a $4 million improvement from last month's report. Pace Suburban Service and 88 Paratransit both have favorable net results, variances in excess of 3%. So those are highlighted in blue, and again, that's due to expense performance. The regional system generated revenue recovery ratio was 49.5%, so it's unfavorable to budget by 0.3 percentage points. And again, in the absence of any revenue or expense credits, the system generated, or the more pure revenue recovery ratio, was 42.3, so that was up slightly than last month. So we're going to continue to watch this because this is an area of concern. But again, it relates to not receiving the reduced fare reimbursement, which is driving that down. So in conclusion, while we're concerned about the ridership results, they have not translated into any significant operating revenue shortfall, and the service board's expense performance is being monitored very closely, and it continues to look good. So that concludes my remarks. If we have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Any questions? Yes, Director Hobson.
Yes, I have 2 questions. One is the primary reason the service boards have changed their reporting methodology. Is that due to the reimbursements from the state?
It's really not changing the reporting methodology. It's not projecting revenue that you don't think you may receive. So we project out revenue for the year, 12 months, and they can vary that because it could be seasonal variations in revenue. So we have RFR, reduced fare reimbursement, let's say it's 1/12. But if you don't think, well, at this time we may not receive that, so why include that revenue? So that is the main reason.
And that reimbursement, of course, is from the state.
Correct. The
Okay.
state reduced fare reimbursement.
And my second question is, we talked about ridership being down, and a couple meetings ago, Director Ross pointed out that if we compare to other transit agencies around the country, that we may actually be doing better. How often do we update competitive ridership numbers?
You will see that next month because we do it quarterly, but we also do the annual comparison as well, the performance comparison reports, the peer reports that we do, that we present annually. But next month you'll get a quarterly review.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Well said. Thank you very
Thank you.
much, B. Really appreciate it. Next is 6B on our agenda, an important presentation on an update on the new model for service delivery within our Mobility Services Department, which has experienced significant growth, as I think Michael will remind us. Mike?
All right, thank you. Good morning, directors. So this morning, I want to discuss the new model of service delivery that the RTA Mobility Services Department is in the process of developing. And this model will accomplish several key goals. It will help us manage the rapidly growing volume of customers applying for all of our programs, including the ADA Paratransit Certification Program, travel training, and our fare programs. It will help us better educate our customers and support them in their transit needs. And it'll be more convenient for our customers as we are developing a model that will be more community-based. So for some background, we operate the ADA Paratransit Certification Program that determines customer eligibility for the ADA Paratransit service that's provided by PACE. We also operate the travel training program and the reduced fare and ride-free programs. This project is specifically looking at how we can integrate these services into a one-stop experience for our customers so they receive the education on transit resources offered by the RTA that will help them utilize our system. The main focus of this project is to solve some very real challenges that the RTA currently faces. This slide shows those challenges. To highlight a few, we have an 8% annual ADA paratransit application growth that's going to happen for the foreseeable future. We have a long waiting list for our travel training programs, increasing application volume for our fare programs. So all of these challenges need to be solved, and we feel that we need a new approach to service delivery in order to accomplish that. We began this project by doing research focused on the RTA ADA Paratransit Certification Program specifically. And while this project really looks at all of our programs and how we can integrate our programs into a one-stop experience for customers, we really focused the research on the ADA Paratransit program because it is the most costly program within our suite of services in that department. And so we can scale modify our other programs around that. So our travel training program and our fare programs can be incorporated into a model that we develop for the ADA Paratransit service. So I'm just going to provide a really high-level overview of the research we conducted in order to come up with an approach that was going to be the most cost-effective and the best model to serve our customers. So we started with the demand analysis. We wanted to understand where our customers reside. We also looked at where our customers reside and where should we locate our sites for the ADA Paratransit Certification Program in order to meet the demand of where our customers live. Then we moved on to looking at a cost analysis to really understand how many sites we should have that would be most cost effective and would provide the best experience for our customers. We then really researched our peers, and we want to understand, out of 11 peers we looked at, what are our peers doing? How many sites are they operating? And where do we fit in comparison to them? And as you should know, right now we operate 5 sites, and all of our closest peers really operate more like 1 site, with the exception of New York, who has 6, but they have 3 times the application volume as us. So today we are noticing that we have more sites than most of our peers. We wrapped up our research by looking to our vendors across the country that provide these types of services, ADA Paratransit Certification, travel training, mobility management, to ask them how would they help us design a model if they were given the opportunity. And we got some really great information from them. And we went on a couple of site visits to some of our peer cities to see how they're providing these services real time. So that really led us to our approach. And what we decided is that we really wanted to focus on community education, helping customers understand our services. And we felt the best way to do that would be in the community. So we are looking to hire mobility outreach specialists that will be county-based. They'll be based in each one of our counties, and they'll be visiting agencies that serve customers with disabilities and older adults to help them understand all the different services we have and help them sign up for those services. We believe this education will help customers utilize our system. We also are in the process of working on an IGA with the City of Chicago to co-locate our customer service center. Currently, we're at 69 West Washington, and we're looking at moving to 4 City of Chicago senior sites instead. And we believe this is a better approach because we have found, with working with the city, that our customers visit their site too. So it makes sense to give them, if they're already at those sites, why not just combine those services and so they have one place to go for all of their needs. In terms of the ADA Paratransit Interview and Assessment model, we are looking to go to a 2-site model. It was, through all of our research, the most cost-effective approach. It offers the best travel times for our customers throughout the region on average, and it's really more in line with what our peers are doing across the country. Today, when you go to one of our sites, the only services you receive is an interview and assessment for the certification for ADA Paratransit. What we're looking to do in the future is really integrate more services and education into the site structure. So we will have staff there that will be educating folks on the fare programs, on transportation resources that are available in their communities, and helping them sign up for travel training as needed. We also plan to use a vendor for more of our services that are currently operated in-house by RTA staff. And the reason for that, as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, was to really meet this increasing demand for all of our services. In our current model, we are unable to keep up with the demand. We have to move to a model where we can, and a vendor is able to scale to meet demand easier than we are. So for the timeline, we are looking, for the last few months, I've been doing a lot of public education, which I'll talk about in a moment. And later this month, we are planning to launch the RFP. In November, more likely December, we'll come back to the board and ask for approval of a contract with a vendor to help us implement this new model. And then January through August will be the transition period. So that'll be the period of time that we'll have the vendor on and we'll start transitioning to this new approach. Just to give you some update over the last 3 months, the activities that we've been doing for this project. I've gone out to all 6 counties now, and I've spoken with the DOTs in those counties and county administrators to educate them on this process. We've had several meetings with the RTA Transit Access Advisory Committee to educate them on what we're looking to do and to get input into the model. We've met with CTA, Metra, and PACE's ADA advisory committees to educate them and get more input. And I'm happy to report that everyone we've reported to have really liked this community model, this community-based model where we're going to be out there helping customers where they live. That was really what people are focused on and very happy about. As I stated a moment ago, we've nearly completed the RFP development process, and we'll be launching the RFP later this month. And then the last piece I'm going to spend just a moment longer on. We're also asking the board to, in the next actual board item, to approve a task order contract amendment with the Browner Group for project management services for this whole model. You might recall back in April, we had come to the board to ask for pre-approval of 11 firms that would be project management firms that would help us with projects as needed that we needed assistance with. This is one of those projects. And so we did send out a task order to the 11 firms, and we got responses back from 4. 3 were found responsive to the task order we put out. We put together a project committee who reviewed those 3 firms, and we chose the Browner Group, who was the lowest cost firm of the 3, as well as had the best technical approach. This contract that we're going to be asking in the next agenda item is for $134,080, and it's for 15 months, and that is to implement the whole model that we're talking about today. So that's the end of my presentation. I'll just ask if there's any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Blake?
Naturally. Michael, I wanted to congratulate you. What a fabulous job you've done, and what a great program this looks like. My question is, when can we expect the community outreach specialists to be in our particular counties? And I'm worried about McHenry County. When will that person be there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're during the implementation of this model, we hope to. The first phase of it will be that we're going to have the vendor bring on travel trainers to help with the travel training. The current travel trainers are who we're looking to become those mobility managers, as well as some other staff potentially. So we're looking probably in the spring to having the mobility outreach specialists out in the counties. And I want to thank you because McHenry County is looking at letting us use some space to house the folks when they're out in McHenry County. And I've been working that same discussion with the other counties as well. I've gotten that same offer from Will County as well as from DuPage County. So I'm working with the counties to see if we can have space in their offices to have those folks.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Any other questions? Thank you. I mean, a fabulous analysis and very well and professionally done from top to bottom, and it leads to really good, sound decision making, on a difficult topic. So thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Great job. All right. Let's see. Next is it was sort of set up by Michael's presentation, but item 7A is the approval of a contract and procurement items, and it's authorizing a task order number 1 for project management for the mobility management and ADA site program startup. It involves, I believe, Leanne, the Bronner Group. Are there any other comments the staff wants to make, or are there any questions on that? If not, can I have a motion to approve in a second? Director Pang makes a motion to approve, seconded by Director McGallis. Is there leave for the attendance roll call, the previous attendance roll call? Seeing no objection, leave is granted, and item 7A will be so reported. Item 8 is a special action item, and it's a resolution in recognition of 25 years of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And this board and all our service boards, including Michael's presentation a moment ago, has always had a heightened sensitivity. And one of the first things that I did when I became the chairman of this organization was to meet with people with disabilities about transit services. So I'm very proud of the way all the service boards in the RTA take the mission of the Americans with Disabilities Act very seriously. And with that, Audrey, can you read the resolution into the record, please?
Certainly. This is a proclamation establishing Americans with Disabilities Act Awareness Day in northeastern Illinois on July 26, 2015. Whereas the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, was passed on July 26, 1990 to ensure the civil rights of people with disabilities. Whereas the Regional Transportation Authority affirms the principles of equality and inclusion for persons with disabilities as set forth for the state of Illinois and as embodied in the ADA, the laws of the state of Illinois, and ordinances of the RTA. Whereas the RTA, Chicago Transit Authority, Metra, and PACE ensure that public transportation vehicles, facilities, and programs comply with the U.S. Department of Transportation and ADA regulations. Whereas the RTA is a partner in the ADA 25 Chicago initiative that is commemorating the 25th anniversary of the ADA and leveraging this historic milestone to continue to improve quality of life for people with disabilities. Whereas the RTA will serve as a gold sponsor for this year's 12th annual Disability Pride Parade in Chicago on July 18, 2015. Whereas the RTA serves people with disabilities through its reduced fare, ride-free, ADA paratransit certification, and travel training programs. Whereas the RTA currently issues more than 570,000 reduced fare and ride-free permits to eligible riders regionally. Whereas the RTA administers the ADA paratransit certification program, recognized nationally as a best practice model with more than 63,000 customers eligible to ride on ADA paratransit service operated by PACE. Whereas the RTA's travel training program annually trains more than 3,900 individuals with disabilities on how to use CTA, Metra, and PACE buses and trains. Whereas numerous organizations in the RTA region work with constituents and communities to bring forth the promise of hope and freedom that is envisioned by the passage of the ADA. And whereas July 26, 2015 celebrates the 25th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act in the RTA region. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Regional Transportation Authority does hereby extend greetings and best wishes to all observing July 26, 2015 as Americans with Disabilities Act Awareness Day. Be it further proclaimed that the Regional Transportation Authority Board of Directors proclaim July 26, 2015 as Americans with Disabilities Act Awareness Day. To be signed by the Chairman, Kirk W. Dillard, for the Regional Transportation Authority and its Board of Directors.
Thank you, Audrey. And again, I can't stress the mission and the service that we provide, our staff provides on a day-to-day basis. It is the lifeblood for individuals and their families with disabilities, and it's one of the things that we do very, very, very well, and it's just vital. And this country's come a long way in the last 25 years, and we're still fighting battles over funding for these critical programs. So it continues. So thank you. Any other comments on that? If not, Director Totten moves that we adopt this resolution, seconded by Director Ross. I assume there's leave for the attendance roll call, and that will be so reported. Thank you very much.
14 ayes and 2 absent.
Item 9 is new business. Anybody have any new business to be raised today? If not, I want to remind everyone that our next scheduled meeting for the RTA board is August 20th. We'll have committee meetings that day again, so we'll be back sort of on as kids go back to school. The RTA will go back to its regular routine, although it was great to have Mr. Carter here today from the CTA. So committees will be at 8:30, followed by our board meeting. If there's no further business to come before the board this morning, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Director Anderson thinks it's appropriate that we adjourn, seconded by Director DeWitt. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the summer. Thank you very much. And you can go shine the ESPY award or whatever.
Oh, don't go there. Oh.